Subwoofer time. We got ourselves an American bass. Right here on the box it says a DX10, that's 600 watts max or peak. It's a 300 watt RMS subwoofer. This is an entry-level subwoofer, meaning it is basic. And there's nothing wrong with basic. It's American basic. Got our decal, that's always nice. Owner's manual, set that aside. Let's see what we got here. I like the packaging, a little bit of foam, very nice. Got a subwoofer in a box. There it is. First impressions, soft suspension. We've got some double stitching on the surround. We've got a nice thick gasket here, and we have push terminals. I'm a big fan of push terminals. The tinsel leads are woven into the spider. Let's flip it over, take a look at the back. A big magnet, bigger than you would expect for a 300 watt subwoofer. As a comparison, here is an old subwoofer that I've had lying around with a much smaller magnet. This is supposed to be a 270 watt subwoofer, and the magnet is rather dinky compared to this magnet on this American bass. I don't know who the marketing genius is who came up with that name, but that's a great name for a subwoofer. It has a stamped steel basket. There's some venting here. We can look in and see the voice coil here. Got a rubber boot on the magnet. On the back, you've got a nice center pole piece, and you've got perimeter venting. This is an entry-level subwoofer, and for an entry-level subwoofer, this thing is built really well. I think that this subwoofer is gonna punch above its weight, which is something that American bass is known for. It is a single 4 ohm voice coil. I'm a big fan of push terminals because they make life easier when you're installing. Let's talk about the basket. A stamped basket like this is perfectly fine for a 300 watt subwoofer, or even a more powerful subwoofer, because stamped baskets are really inexpensive and very strong for the cost. No, this is not some giant mega subwoofer that's gonna win SPL contests. This is for that daily driver, that guy who wants an inexpensive sub setup to add that low end to their music. And that's a big part of the market. One thing I want to point out, when you're looking at these stamped steel baskets, almost all of them have some kind of ridge. That's not there just for decoration. That little bend makes the steel stronger. Looks to be some kind of poly cone with a poly dust cap and some type of rubber surround. This subwoofer was sent to me by Designer Motorsports. You can hit the link down in the video description and find this subwoofer on their website. Not only do they carry American bass, they also carry several other brands such as DD Audio. Now, I don't usually tell you the price in the video because prices change day to day, but this is definitely a less than $100 subwoofer, probably less than $80. And when you consider the price point, it does have some extra features that you wouldn't expect in an entry-level sub, such as the stitch surround, the nice gasket, and the push terminals, along with plenty of cooling. From a standpoint of price to build quality, this subwoofer gets a thumbs up from me. What we're going to do now is pop over to the computer. We're going to model this in WinISD, and then we will lay out some plans for a subwoofer box. The software we're using here is called WinISD. This is free software. If you're not familiar with WinISD, I do have a tutorial on how to use it. I'll give you a link to that up here or down below the video. Off camera, I entered the TS parameters into the software. I want to point out right here in green, the driver passed the integrity check. So not only does this value-minded brand provide TS parameters, they provide accurate TS parameters even on their least expensive entry-level subwoofer. There are brands out there that don't provide that information, or when they do provide it, they are inaccurate. I'm not going to name any names, but let's just say that I'm scarred because it happens so often. To use the software, you hit create new project, find your subwoofer, and hit next, and then it's going to ask you the number of drivers. Well, I've got 2 of these, so we may as well build an enclosure for 2 of the drivers. We'll hit next. We're going to go with a vented enclosure, and you're allowed to choose an alignment. It really doesn't matter which one you choose. I just pick the first one and then make adjustments, and we'll give it a name. When we do that, it's going to default, and we get this transfer function here, and this particular transfer function is very flat and plays low, and that's kind of cool. That's a 3.143 cubic foot box tuned to 29 hertz, which is fine if that's what you want, but typically in car audio we tune them a little bit higher. I know that the manufacturer recommends 1.25 cubic feet, so let's do a 2.5 cubic foot box for 2 of these things, and let's bring that tuning frequency up. Most people in a car audio situation like the sound of about a 34 to 36 hertz tuning frequency. So we'll go with 36 hertz. And what that gives us is a peak output at around 41, almost 42 hertz, or we have 2.7 dB of gain there. If we want it louder, we can tune higher and we can boost the output. When we do that, we lose low end extension. So that's the trade-off anytime you're doing this. It's true with any subwoofer, not just this one. Right here where the red dotted line crosses, that is our -3 dB point. That is where we've lost half the musical energy, and that happens at about 30 hertz. So the way you want to think about it is we can play down below 30 hertz, but we're going to lose a lot of output when we get down past 30 hertz. The beauty of this software is you can tune your ported box to whatever you want. If you want it louder, you can make the box a little bigger. If you want it less peaky, you can make the box a little smaller. I'm going to go to signal and I'm going to put in 500 watts. I usually don't put in the full amount of power that I can throw at these things to account for the power factor and the impedance rise we typically see inside of an enclosure. And after that, we're going to go to the rear port air velocity, and this is going to tell us that our port has a 52.6 meter per second peak at 34 hertz. That's going to cause audible port noise, also known as chuffing. So I'm going to go over to vents, and right now by default we have one 4-inch vent. What I want to do here is try a square-shaped vent and make one vent that say is 2 inches wide by 12 inches tall, and that's going to be a 15.83, almost a 16-inch vent, and that gets our port airspeed velocity down to 27. Ideally, you want that port airspeed velocity below 17 for a sound quality enclosure. The way to do that is you make the vent larger. Say we go 3 inches wide, and when that happens, the port length goes up to about 25 inches. What you've got there is a trade-off. It's going to be really hard to fit a 25-inch long port into a 1.2 cubic foot enclosure. If this were a high-end sound quality build, I'd say go for it. But this is not. This is more for our daily driver. So we're going to go with a 2x12 vent. I also like to look at the cone excursion. This subwoofer has about 11 millimeters of X-Max, and so we're going to hit that 11 millimeters at 30 hertz. If we're playing full tilt, anything below 30 hertz, we have to worry about going past the X-Max and creating distortion. You can of course fix that with an infrasonic filter. What you have to remember with a ported enclosure is that if you're playing an octave below the tuning frequency, you're for all practical purposes playing your subwoofer in free air, meaning there's no additional air suspension behind the subwoofer to control the cone. If you lose cone control, that creates distortion. If you push it too hard, you can damage the subwoofer. When I was testing out the subwoofer, I did get some footage of it playing in free air, so keep watching and I'll show you some more of that awesome free air subwoofer footage. From WinISD, we're going to pop over to my website and I'm going to show you how you can generate a free box design for any subwoofer. We take that information from WinISD, we click calculators, and we choose the slot port cut sheet builder. This will build a very simple front firing slot port enclosure, and it's just a matter of entering in some basic information. We got a pair of 10s with an outside diameter of about 10.5 inches, and we got a 2-inch slot port, so that gives us a rough idea of the minimum width we can have for our enclosure. And if you punch in a number that's way too small, the calculator will throw an error code. Why don't we set the width to 26 inches, and I want to set my height to 13.5, and that'll force us to have a 12-inch tall slot port. This is the external height. And then we have a maximum depth. So this is how deep your trunk, a large number like 30 can go in there, and we'll have a 2-inch wide port. And we want a 2.25 cubic foot enclosure. Subwoofer displacement. American base does not tell us how much space the subwoofer takes up inside the enclosure, but 10s don't take up a lot of space. We're going to guesstimate 0.1 for the two of them. We're going to go with a 36 hertz tuning frequency. We're using 3/4 inch material. And I like doubling up on the baffle just for a little bit of extra strength on that front baffle to cut down on any resonance. Our subwoofer mounting depth is, I think, 5.1 inches. Outside diameter is 10.4. I'm going to plug in 10.5, give us some wiggle room. We're going to do 2 subwoofers, and I'm going to choose the no router cut list. You can build this without a router. That's the simplest way to do it. We hit generate cut list, and it's going to give us our width, height, and depth, and it gives us a complete cut list with the size of the top and the bottom of the enclosure, the size of the back of the enclosure, the sides of the left, right, the front baffle, and our port wall. This is going to be a really easy box to build. There's not going to be any bends or an L inside the port because the box is deeper than our port. Simple box to build, entry-level subwoofers, great option for people who are new to car audio. And on my website, you will find a list of trusted partners. You can see here, Designer Motorsports is one of my trusted partners. So thanks again to Designer Motorsports for sending out these subwoofers. For those of you who would like a visualization, here is what that looks like. Very simple box, double baffle. The port is just one piece, so it's going to be easy to build. This would be a great subwoofer box to build if you've never built one before. I'll go ahead and sketch out some plans with measurements and dimensions and put those available for sale at a link down below. Or you can just use the free tool on my website to generate a cut sheet. It's designed to be beginner friendly if you're new to building subwoofer boxes. As promised, I've got some awesome subwoofer flex footage for you, but first a little preview of things to come. I'm going to build an enclosure for these subwoofers, but not the enclosure I just designed. I'm going to try something different, something special, something that will show off the capabilities of my Bamboo Lab H2D 3D printer. My patrons already know what I'm up to because they get those behind the scenes updates. If you want to know what I'm working on before everybody else does, head over to Patreon and sign up today. One of the things I always like to do is get some footage of the subwoofer flexing in free air because people love to see it and it's fun. We're doing this because it's fun. I like to do some 20 hertz free air flex, not just to get cool footage, but also to see what it sounds like when it's playing 20 hertz, because 20 hertz is the bottom end of what is considered normal human hearing. And with the subwoofer in free air, the back wave canceling out the front wave, you're not really going to hear very much if you're playing 20 hertz. What you will hear is you will hear mechanical noise. So if you've got a subwoofer that's just noisy and distorted, you'll be able to hear it. I didn't hear any mechanical noise, and I'm excited to see how it's going to sound inside of an enclosure. Check this out right here. I'm playing a 30 hertz tone, and as you can see, the subwoofer doesn't appear to be moving. That's because the camera is recording at a 30 frame per second frame rate, and so it's synchronized perfectly with the subwoofer. When I turn the subwoofer to the side, you can get a little bit of a glimpse of the cone and the spider moving. In this shot right here, it appears that the subwoofer is wobbling. That is a side effect of the camera. The camera uses a thing called a rolling shutter, where it doesn't capture the entire frame all at once. Instead, it captures the frame line by line. You're seeing the subwoofer in two different positions inside of its range of motion between the top and the bottom of the screen. If the subwoofer actually wobbled like that in the real world, you would hear it. It would make a terrible scraping noise as the voice coil scraped against the magnet down in the gap. It's cool to watch. Before I go, I want to say thank you to all of my patrons, with a big bonus shout out to $25 patrons, Bo and Joe. I'm Justin. This is the DIY Audio Guy YouTube channel, and I will see you on the next adventure.